Growing up in Idaho, Jordan Leake always knew his path was to be a dairyman. But what he didn't realize until he became one was that his passion extended beyond the cows. He found his greater purpose in growing and developing people. Now Vice President at High Plains Ponderosa in Kansas, Jordan shares what it means to lead with humility, build culture at scale, and create opportunity that reaches far beyond the barn. That and more here today on the Up-Level Dairy Podcast. This episode is sponsored by Micro Technologies. Micro Technologies has a deep history of conquering challenges to create a safe, wholesome food supply efficiently and profitably. As a brand of NWI Animal Health, Micro Technologies continues the legacy of innovating with you to empower your business. So Jordan, you are a fourth-generation dairyman, and we're here at High Plains Ponderosa in Kansas today, but this is not home for you.
No.
So tell me a little bit of how you got your start in the dairy business.
So, as you said, I'm a fourth-generation dairyman. That's been pretty much all I've known my entire life. So, my grandparents, both set of grandparents, actually had dairies in the West Jordan, Utah area. And as urban encroachment came, they both happened to move to Cache Valley, where there was more milk market in the 70s. And incidentally, they ended up on dairies about a mile apart. And so my father bought the dairy in between them. And so I ended up having just a really cool childhood, being able to see, both of my grandfathers dairying on either side of us, and then we doing the same. So it was just my dad and my brother and I. My dad started the dairy completely on his own, without any help. Looking back now, it was incredible that he made it late 70s, early 80s with just incredible interest rates.
Yeah.
And so he was really determined not to go out of business. And so he taught us just incredibly how to work hard, how to do things on our own, how to make sure that you can pay for what you buy. And so it was a great way to grow up. And so from there, that's been my passion. And so that's my story.
So you started on the dairy that you grew up on, as you said, your father's dairy, but also with dairy around you within your own family, two grandfathers on either side. And really that's what put this passion and seed in you to want to continue on in the dairy business. So you were a dairyman yourself for a time, correct?
Yeah. Out of school, I was a herd manager on a new growing dairy. I think we were milking like 2,200 cows. At the time, I thought it was the biggest dairy in the world, and had an opportunity to kind of go out on my own, which was my dream, really. I wanted to do what my dad did. And so had that opportunity to kind of rent a facility, and my wife and I milked cows there. And there was a point in time where it was about 3 years in, I was doing it by myself. And I remember going out and milking. It was like 3:00 in the morning, going out to get the cows in the milk. And I just asked myself the question, why am I not loving this? This was what I always wanted to do. What is it that's no longer just driving the fire, that I really thought that's where I wanted to be? And the more, I had thought and talked with my wife about it, I realized I really had enjoyed the experience of that larger herd, especially kind of the team aspect of it. And so had an opportunity come up in central Idaho with the Ardema group. They were looking for someone to come up and manage their dairies. And it's a long story, but we ended up making some arrangements. John Anderson, a good friend of mine, and I were hired kind of as a package deal. And we went up there together and ended up being 15 years managing that for the Ardema family. It was a really great experience.
So you really had a defining moment as a young dairyman. doing a lot of the work yourself, doing what you thought was your dream, when all of a sudden you questioned if you were really in the right place.
Yeah.
You make that statement, but I don't think it's uncommon. I really don't. I think a lot of people have been in that spot, whether they're in dairy or something else, where the dream isn't maybe the dream that you thought it would be. And was that hard for you to come to that realization?
Yeah, it was because, especially at the time, I was seeing all of the success that I was working for, and so it was really kind of an existential crisis in some sort of way because, what is it then that I really want to do? And it even made me question, do I want a dairy? Is there something else beyond this? I was super lucky to have an uncle, my uncle Kevin, that was worked with Monsanto. And I was introduced to so many of those wonderful people that worked there, through the 90s. And so as I was talking to them, it made me wonder, is there more of a career path in that area? I love the dairy work. Milking cows was great. And I really loved the genetics part and seeing the herd develop. And I had made so many strides that way. I had gone to embryo transfer school. And so we were doing ET work there and all these things I thought that I wanted to do, but it just wasn't fueling the passion that I had.
And so that was that impetus to say, okay, maybe this isn't the right thing. And walking away from what you thought was your dream, that's a big thing right there too. But it opened up a whole nother door to step into managing at scale. But that also gave you an opportunity to not only manage cows at scale, but also people.
Right.
And so what did this whole experience really reveal to you about what was your inner drive?
Yeah, it wasn't until later on when I read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, when I really started to understand that maybe, the cows weren't my why. and that was what it was all about, that, cows could be part of that why. What I found really about myself, defined myself later on in my life, was that it's just really about growth and seeing people, animals, things, businesses have opportunity, first of all, and then reach, that opportunity is really what excites me and gets me out of bed in the morning. And so anytime I can plug myself into that, I'm happy. And so that's really what it kind of revealed to me, is I was doing that, but it was by myself. I was missing several key pieces of that. And so being able to do it with a large, group of people and just seeing people get opportunities every day is really a lot of fun.
And so that led to, as you said, 15 years with the Artemite Group and an opportunity to take that why that you had for getting out of bed every morning to really just see through the potential and the opportunities for whether it's cows, people, the business, to just take it and run.
Right.
And what a run that was. And then one day you get a phone call from Craig Bethard, says, why don't you come to Kansas?
Yeah.
So it took more than one call.
Yeah, it did. I really loved what I was doing there. I really didn't honestly think I would move, especially because I had built such wonderful relationships with the area there and all those that worked with me every day. So that was the hardest part of making the change, to be honest with you, is leaving all those people I love. But Greg is the one guy that I would answer the phone for. So Greg had been on our advisory panel. He was just so practical in, making sense of how a dairy not only is a business, but really kind of a clear vision of how to accomplish it. I think he just has an extreme talent to do that. Yeah, when he called, it was at a point in my life where I thought maybe I might be able to make a change. And so I flew down and visited with him. I flew down probably 80% no, 20% maybe. And I drove on to the place without even visiting with Greg. And the thought came to my mind was, oh my goodness, I'm moving to Kansas. It was just coming here and seeing the potential and what was really available here that was no longer available in an area like Idaho that was really saturated with dairy. It really opened my mind to the opportunity. And then, of course, sitting down with Greg, he took some time to make and come. It was about a year after visiting with him that first time that we finally came. But yeah, we're here in Southwest Kansas where we're glad we made the move.
So take me back to the windshield moment.
Yeah.
So as you said, you drove in and you intrinsically knew that this was where you would end up.
I think I saw a culmination of like my childhood, dreams of building a dairy and then going through that transition of my own and even there working with Artema, seeing things growing and becoming modern and what could be possible. It's hard to start over every day, right? It's the dairy industry changes and with that, sometimes there's some real technology changes, including opportunities for infrastructure that are just really hard to flip. And here it had all the ingredients of, all those kind of dreams and hopes throughout the years, and I could see them all play out. I guess I saw the potential and really what maybe Greg saw as well when he came here. And of course, all the families that partnered here originally, I think they all had the vision of what it could be. And I just happened to be able to see it on the back end. Yeah.
So when you pulled up into the driveway, you didn't see what was here. You saw what could be here.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it was amazing, what was already here, but definitely the potential was whatever we could make it.
So there was what you could see, the opportunity that existed, but was there also something about Greg as a visionary that drew you in?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Greg's a lot of fun to work with. And again, he was a friend before, but Greg challenges me every day. and again, and I say that in all good ways. And I really need that. That's something I found in my life and my career is that, I don't do well with boredom. And I think he shares that with me. He's a very visionary person. And, I can be a little more practical at times to be able to see that kind of work and how the small pieces fit in to make that work. And so, yeah, I think as he and I talked, we could kind of see how we would be able to work together really well to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish now.
So when it came to getting your buy-in on the vision, I'm going to revert back to a conversation that I had the opportunity to have with Greg a few months back when him and I sat down together. And one of the things that he talked about was building a dairy with the mindset that this is an infinite business. Mm-hmm. And by that, it's not finite. It's not a business that's built to have an endpoint. Did that excite you too?
No, absolutely. There's nothing like being a part of a business with no exit strategy because it's all opportunity. One of the things that a point in my career where we had to shut down a couple of dairies and move some things around and laying a couple guys off that I really cared about was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And, we're the exact opposite here, right? We're all about creating opportunities and growing those that have, started in our business and are moving through. And so the infinite business isn't just about, the total business growth. It's about those that are inside it as well.
And when you talk about that opportunity creation for people within this business, you're one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you recently have moved into a higher level role. You were previously the COO, a position that now Will is in, who we visited with here as well. And your role has changed.
When we brought Will in, it was more about, when you have an opportunity to have a really good person in your organization, you do whatever it takes to do that. And so Will became available, and of course his talents really matched that COO role. And so I moved out of that COO role with really not a real definitive role for myself. my role is, the title is vice president. Whether, that means vice president or not, I'm not sure. But really what I do on a day-to-day basis is business development. So whatever is coming new, or even if I've got to step back into something that needs a little more attention, it's been a lot of fun. I've been at it for about a year now.
What's been the biggest challenge you faced as you stepped up into this vice president role?
Missing the day-to-day with some of the employees. Yeah. And of course I still have wonderful relationships with them, but I just don't spend as much time with them because I really feel like Will needed to take on, that role and that relationship building portion, which he's done wonderfully. But that's probably been the hardest. The other part is I've had to step into things I know absolutely nothing about. And so Greg came to me in the spring last year and said, we really need to do something different with our data. And my data backgrounds, was Excel and some processing. So I dove in with both feet. We had some help from some outside sources that came in and helped us. And then I took some online courses and just started, and we started building our data systems now. And so
you just touched on three things: cows, people, data. If you had to rank those in order of which one gets you, really gets you out of bed in the morning first, how would you rank those three?
Those are a hard question, but I think people would be first. Yeah. And I love the cows, and I think the data goes hand in hand really with the cows for us here. It's the way that we manage. And so data means cows, and cows mean data. Those are a close second, but people are for sure the passion.
Yeah, that's your zone, isn't it?
Yeah.
The people side. And when it comes to that people side, in this role that you have stepped into, this business development role, I want to focus on that word development, because it's not just the business at large that you're looking at developing, but you're doing some really intentional things to develop the people.
There's a point in a business once you get past, 150 people, that you really have to have systems to be able to teach culture and to be able to help. I love being really direct and close with people, and it's hard to do that with so many. And so you have to find ways of being able to kind of sew that in so that people feel, when they come here to work for us, that they're not just a person here working, that they're part of the family. And it's harder as you grow. And so we've tried to create some programs that build on that and really get that to everyone that's in our organization.
When you talk about creating programs, you're taking this to heart. In fact, as an individual, you are working on a program that is part of your master's in ag leadership.
So that actually came from a suggestion that I got from one of our managers here, Hector. We had been doing some leadership training, and Hector came up after and said, I'd like to be more a part of this. So it made me really kind of understand that I was missing a huge opportunity to utilize all these managers and their leadership skills that we already had in place and give them an opportunity to share their stories. And so I've created a program with Oklahoma State, it's a 12-month program, kind of one class a month, and it's taught by one of the managers. It starts with building our culture. That's the first course. But really, it's on the onus of a manager to go and study it. It has curriculum there to look through and find, but put their own emphasis on it, their own stories and how those successes have come about in their own life, and then share that with the group. What my hope is that, just like I was saying, that they can get a real feel of who we are, that it's not just about, teaching a skill. It's about really embracing who we are as a company and our culture of care. Leadership is really all about building a relationship with people to the point where they can trust you, that they'll listen and they want to follow. And so that's what we're really trying to do through that program. And so now they're not just engaged in their job, but they're engaged in the leadership part of their job too. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish.
Talk for a moment about qualifying the potential and the drive of the individual, because there are some people that do have that appetite to want more responsibility, want that growth, and some that just don't, and both are okay. But what's your philosophy on those two groups?
That's, we need everyone. And there's that's the great part about being larger, is that you have an opportunity that, no matter people's talents or desires, there's a spot. But I think the most important part is not to try to force anything on anyone, or just being honest with them on their growth and what they want to be. So, Hector does a marvelous job when a new employee comes in to milk. He has those conversations with them as, what do you want? What are your goals? And let's help you get on a path to get there. Some people only want to be here for a short period of time and milk some cows and move on to their next job. Others want to be a mechanic. Others, want to be a feed truck driver or, in upper management. And so those opportunities are available there. And I think they then make those decisions as they go. As you give them more responsibility and new opportunities, they show if they like it or not. And then again, you have to be honest. Is this something you want more of? Or have you learned something else about yourself that maybe this is a better track for you to go? So yeah, I think just being direct and honest with people is the best path. You just have to make sure that, not one size doesn't fit all, but just make sure that aligns up with them in their life, and that, we're not holding or beholding them to anything going in the future. If they decide to change their mind or they're growing into a different part of their life, we want to make sure that's available for them too.
So you've really looked at how can you identify the passions and desires and possibilities for the individual, and created these avenues for them to be able to find their way. And they're 5.5 years here at High Plains. There's got to be some cool things that you have witnessed, where you have seen people that have started in one place and been able to grow into some other.
So, we could be here a long time if we discuss, and I hate to leave so many people out, because really when I walk around and I visit with people, I just see it everywhere. As you walk into our office, you'll meet Alejandra. And when I got here, on Chris's team, our cattle operations manager, and Hector, she was milking, and then she became a milking trainer. And that opportunity became available in the office, and we had tried a few people from outside and it didn't work. And here's this person who had already shown an extremely good work ethic and had been with us for a time. And so we talked to her about the opportunity. She was scared about it, from transitioning from being a milker into an office staff employee. But we got her some training. She took English classes. She's done so much to get to the point where she's at now. She's extremely proficient, and kind of half runs our business from the office now. She sees all the new employees that come in, and we love that she's the face of that. But probably the proudest moment I had is at a Christmas party. She's a single mom. She was at the time, and her son was there, and I was visiting with him. I said, "Your mom is doing a wonderful job in the office." And he looked at me with just such pride and said, "I am so proud of my mom." And so those are the types of things that really resonate with me, and really want to see others get opportunities like that.
Did that open your eyes to see that, we've been talking about the impact on the individual, but every individual is one person that touches others. They touch their family, they touch a community, they touch extended family, and it really is so much bigger. Does that resonate with you? Like,
Oh, absolutely. The Christmas party here is my absolute favorite. It is nuts. All the employees come and bring all of their family and the little kids that are running around and, the piñatas and food from the different cultures and things that get together. I think to me, that's the time in which I really am humbled by the impact this place is having on the community. They're all in the school systems here. They're getting opportunities in those school systems to become, more. And, I recently visited with an employee who was going through an extremely hard time. And I asked her, I said, do you regret making the move? And she said, never. She said, the opportunities that this is giving my kids is worth any sacrifice. It does make us stop and ponder and like I said, be grateful and humble about what we're able to do here. And it's the partners that allow us to do that. We've all got a like mind on where we're seeing this go, and giving us those opportunities to bless all those lives, while we're trying to make a living for our own family is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a whole community and beyond. So, one thing I'm curious about for you, Jordan, because you have a strong emphasis and concentration on leadership, developing leaders. Also here, there's different cultures, subsects of cultures that come into play at this dairy and every other dairy, really in the country, right? What I've learned from talking with other producers is that not every culture views leadership, development, advancement the same. In fact, I've even heard some comments that like some cultures almost have a essence of holding back advancement.
I look at it a little bit differently because we're not trying to force feed a certain type of leadership. Leadership is organically caring for people and then caring enough about them to be, serviceable, to help them, if there's conflict, you're resolving that conflict because you care about them, not because you're trying to resolve the conflict. And everyone speaks that language.
Would you say then that developing people and developing leaders, the emphasis isn't on titles, the emphasis isn't on hierarchy, but truly from a cultural standpoint, a High Plains culture standpoint, it's really just honing in on caring and being able to expand the meaning of that across multiple people.
Yeah, it's a huge blessing. Hardly any of us are from here in Kansas.
Yeah.
We've all come here. We don't have most of us don't have our parents and grandparents and a lot of the structure that others have. And so we lean pretty hard on each other. And that's a huge blessing for us. And, you can feel that as soon as you walk through the door here, is that it's been that way in the beginning. We care about people and we're going to continue caring about people. Come join our family and we'll find a spot for you and help you get to wherever you want to go. So that's really what we're doing.
So again, going back to some of the original things that you stated, Jordan, about what brought you here, and it was opportunity you could see right in front of you, opportunity that you could see in a vision that wasn't concrete yet. Yeah. But it's the same thing with the opportunities that you could see for people. And that's part of what your role is now. And that really pertains back to this conversation. I think one of the core aspects of what we've been talking about today is leadership. And so for you as a leader, what would you say is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Yeah, I've thought about this. I've received such wonderful advice and so many mentors throughout my career. I'm truly humbled by the opportunities that I've gotten. But the greatest advice that I received actually happened when I was 19 years old. And a person very close to my life gave it to me. And it was, the key to happiness is gratitude. And, I took it with a grain of salt at the time, but it is absolutely the truth. And it's really that first thing that I check myself in is, look at all these guys that are here that are really working hard. I am so grateful that they all got up and came to work today and are working so extremely hard for us to be able to do what we're doing. I'm so grateful for the partners that are involved in the dairy that have faith in us, to be able to do what we're doing and building. And I found that's what makes happiness come, is just being grateful for those opportunities. And it doesn't mean your life circumstances are perfect. And it doesn't mean you don't need to change your circumstances at times, but you can still find things to be grateful for all the way through it.
Who gave that advice to you?
Yeah, so I was a church missionary when I was 19, and it was the wife of our mission president. Yeah, Sister Tuller. She used to sprinkle it in all the way through, but yeah, she was an incredible person, and that was a great piece of advice that she gave, which I've been able to use.
And, I think gratitude is one of those things that it's sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah.
To do it in a truly intentional way that becomes a habit. And so for you, it sounds like you've made that part of your kind of almost like a daily practice.
Yeah, it is, because my ego can get in the way, and so
I'm calling out, we can't see it from here, but there is a little plaque over your shoulder.
Yeah.
And do you remember what it says?
Yeah, my ego is not your amigo. Yeah, it's meant for me, for sure, for no one else. But yeah, it's the times in my life in which I've made mistakes and haven't been happy is when I haven't really just been grateful. And so it is something that I've got to continually focus on. And I think it's human nature, but it is intentional in my life.
And it can sometimes be the easiest thing to disregard, right? So on that note, how have you grown the most in the last 5.5 years?
Humility is probably the thing that I came with. And, when you manage a place for 15 years and you think that you know a lot because you've gone through the same things, but every dairy is different. So coming here, just having to be able to check myself, and that's allowed me to really open my mind and just learn again. But for the most part, just being more open-minded probably is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. So that's been your biggest growth area.
Yeah.
And open-minded with what was possible for you here to take to take a certain amount of risk to move your whole family to Kansas.
Yeah.
This wasn't just crossing a border. Again, when we talk about your growth as a leader, you have a beautiful book collection behind you on the shelf that I could see from here. And so I'm really curious, if you had to pick 5 books that you would say have really had a high level of influence on you, what's your top 5 list?
Okay. Top 5. So probably the most important book that I ever read that I wish had been available for me when I was much younger was Mindset by Carol Dweck. It was the first time I understood the concept of growth mindset. That's an incredible book for anyone, I think, just so they can understand how, first of all, they work in themselves and how so many more opportunities become available when you just quit being scared of failing. So.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, what else is on your list?
So I mentioned Simon Sinek's Start With Why. That's certainly one that was really important. That was kind of game-changing for me in understanding, it's part of that of my life. And I still use that. I came to a conclusion, which was surprising to me after I read the book, was, holy cow, maybe I don't have to be a dairyman. That was, somewhat liberating at the time. Of like, well, I'm choosing to be because I really like it. Where before it was what I knew and what I was good at, right? And so that Start With Why helped me understand that, I could probably apply these things in any part of my life or many different occupations if that's what I had chose to do. And I share that with, I've got 3 kids out of the house now, and that's really what I tell them when they're choosing occupations is understand who you are, the why behind you doing things, and then you'll understand the path that you want to get to. So that was a really impactful book for me at the time. Around that kind of that line of thinking is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I was given that book, and it was really kind of cool. And I learned some lessons, you know, as a church missionary, when my dad had taught me that you can accomplish anything that you're willing to work hard enough for. And, you know, that was really his story. And so I believed it wholeheartedly. It was the first time, though, when I spent some time in downtown New Orleans in some areas that were quite impoverished, that I realized not everyone starts at the same spot. And so no matter how hard you work, it doesn't mean you're going to end up in the same spot because you're starting in a different spot. That was new to me at the time. It was a good time for me to learn, but that, you know, that Outliers book was very good and helped not just, you know, the 10,000 hour rule and some of the other things that are quite remarkable in it, but just an understanding that not everything is as it appears, and there's reasons behind that. And I think it opens your mind up to giving other people opportunities too, because just because they don't look a certain way or they didn't start in a certain spot doesn't mean they can't get to another place.
So we've gone through a mindset, start with why, Outliers. What else?
So the other book I'd recommend was actually one that Greg gave me before I came, and it's called Drive by Daniel Pink. And I think it was important for him to give that to me to help me understand. It's really about intrinsic behaviors, right? It's a great book in understanding, you know, that people aren't really motivated by what you think they're motivated by. And if you can tap into what they're really motivated by, you'll accomplish so much more between the two of you. And so, yeah, it's a great book. It was, you know, whether I would have come here or not, it made me want to say, I do want to be a part of a culture that promotes that. The last one I would give is a textbook. And I know that sounds weird, but as I was my graduate studies, the leadership experience by Draft. And it's really, he has gone in such a wonderful way of just all the way through the way we think, the way we're motivated, you know, all the tools, motivational tools, and all of the different personality tests that are used and why. And it doesn't come to a point where it's saying this is the way to be a leader, but it's just, these are all of the opportunities to be able to capture the hearts and minds of those that you're leading.
So that's your reference guide.
Exactly.
When you really want to dive deep into leadership. And Jordan, as we wrap up the time that we have for this conversation today, we'd be missing out if we didn't just touch a little bit on something you said earlier about your why from the standpoint of what you do, not just here at the dairy, but outside of the dairy, because you put some pretty big challenges on yourself. Just give us a little sneak peek into Jordan off the dairy.
Again, boredom is something I don't do well with. And so sometimes I end up taking things a little too far and seeing that. But you know, I get teased a lot. I can't just own a cow. I have to have a registered cow, right? I can't just have a horse that has to be a registered horse. So the horses that I work with are down at a trainer, and they're reining horses. And so buying them as a yearling and seeing what they can do with them. I'm not a particularly good rider, but they amaze me what they can do when they've had so much time and attention given to them and shown. And so I pay for the opportunity to go watch them show, and then we market them at the end. It's kind of like the dairy, you know, show cow business. There's a lot of similarities to that. And so, yeah, the endurance running thing came as an accident as well. Just didn't stop. I just kept gaining more distance because I kept failing.
So from cattle to horses to endurance running, there is a whole other Jordan that is beyond what we see here at the dairy, but really it's all plays into the same why that you shared earlier. And you know, Jordan, one final question for you. I'm really curious about this one. I like to often end my conversations with asking, what's your next up level?
Yes, this next phase of my life, I think, has been the part that is really exciting for me is to see my kids do the same. And so I've got, like I said, 3 out of the house now. I've got two more to go. Just pouring everything I have into them and seeing, whatever they can do and go and make. It has been so extremely fun and exciting for me to see what they're doing in their lives and seeing where they go. So that's my next up level is all them.
It's watching everything that you've been doing come to fruition.
Yeah. Mostly my wife.
Mostly your wife. Yeah. Give credit where it's due. Smart man. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for allowing me to come and to visit with you, have this conversation, and be able to share this with others that will be inspired, informed, and encouraged by what you've brought to the table from your experiences as a dairyman in dairy management, in leadership. But I think our conversation is so much bigger than that. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I really appreciate you coming down. This has been fun. So thank you for coming to the edge of the earth here in Southwest Kansas, and looking forward to seeing what else you've got in store.
All right. Well, thank you so much. You just heard from Jordan Leak, Vice President at High Plains Ponderosa. His story is a powerful reminder that leadership starts with care and opportunity creates impact that echoes through families and communities. Thanks for listening to this Up-Level Dairy podcast. Don't forget to follow, rate, and share wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and until next time, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. This episode is sponsored by Micro Technologies. Micro Technologies has a deep history of conquering challenges to create a safe, wholesome food supply efficiently and profitably. As a brand of MWI Animal Health, Micro Technologies continues the legacy of innovating with you to empower your business.